friends, and welcome to Mad as a Hatter podcast.
Stop saying podcast.
It is a podcast, though.
But then it says a true Curiosities and Conspiracies podcast. It's just like podcast.
Okay. Hello, friends, and welcome to Mad as a Hatter,
a Conspiracies and Curiosities podcast.
Okay, so last week I discussed Jonestown, and
I had talked about the glorification of serial killers. And at the end of our episode, we pulled out 2 new topics out of our hat, which is something we're going to try to keep up with every week. And if you are listening and you have any fun suggestions of something that you want to hear about, feel free to email us at madhatterpodcast@gmail.com, and we will add those topics to our hat to be pulled out. So, Darby, what did you pull out of the hat?
I pulled out the dark web.
The what?
Yes, so this is something that's been kind of big in our pop culture recently, and it's not so much of a 100% conspiracy as it is just a lot of rumors and unknowns surrounding it.
So I will admit, I know absolutely nothing about the dark web. I know it's a thing. I know it's out there. And so I'm really interested to hear what Darby has to say. But at the same time, I'm a very anxious person. And I'm a little nervous about what I'm going to hear because she kept texting me over the week saying, "Oh my gosh, I can't wait to tell you this." And I'm like sitting there going, not today, Satan.
So we'll just jump right in.
All right.
Okay. So as far as the internet goes, as everyone knows, the internet is a broad.
Oh, is that it? Okay, yes. I was guessing.
That is it. It's a very broad subject. It's has a lot to it. So the way that they like to describe the internet is as an iceberg.
It's coal?
If you want to get into our Google Docs page,
yes,
and pull up the first picture I have.
See, last week you got me with some good pictures, so I'm a little nervous. I'm sorry for all the background noises you might hear with my computer. And also we have a lovely guest on the show today, Laura the cat.
So if you hear any purring, that is Laura.
She is very, very loud. Okay, so now I know what you mean.
Don't go past. Okay, so the very tip is what we know as of the internet. So you've got Google, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Wikipedia, all the stuff you can easily find online.
There's Bing on there, which I think should not be on there. I'm sorry if you use Bing religiously. I despise it. I can't do it. It should be, I think it's the part that hit the Titanic. It's just that terrible.
Then, I mean, it's not the part that broke the Titanic. The part that broke the Titanic is the deep web.
Oh, right. It was under the surface.
Yes, it was.
Oh, I'm sorry for my very poor allegory there.
So, just like an iceberg, about 90% of the internet is below the surface. So, that is known as the deep web. And in the deep web, we get into everything that hackers can find. So, anything that requires a login, as in your online bank accounts, your Facebook accounts, your private ones before you post anything you're writing on a blog, your emails, anything that only you should access or only a company should access. So hackers like to be in that deep web. That's where your information can get stolen. So the dark web is even lower than that.
Mm-hmm.
The dark web is what you need an encrypted network to access. It cannot be found with traditional search engines. To access this, you do need
Bing.
Even Bing. You do need a Tor browser. It is not illegal to have Tor. It is illegal to access parts of the dark web. Not all, but parts. That's very important.
So wait, so you can get away with having all the keys, but unless you use the key, you're fine.
Correct.
Oh my.
Not everything on the dark web is illegal. A lot of it is about just privacy.
Oh.
Which we'll get into. Yeah, it's a lot about just being private. Nobody can find what you're doing.
Okay.
So I still do not recommend anybody getting a Tor browser. just because there's a
Disclaimer, PSA.
lot of stuff on
This
there.
is not an advertisement for the dark web.
No, it is not.
Do not go out saying, well, Matt as a Hatter podcast gave me how-to instruction. No, we denounce all liability and all affiliation with any dark web related matters. I'm going to need to call the lawyers after this.
Okay, well, so what is a Tor, you may ask? A Tor browser hides your identity and location, like a VPN service. So basically, if anyone does try to find your VPN or IPN, they cannot find out where you are. It kind of scatters it. So not every site on the dark web uses Tor. It is just the most common, but no matter what the encryption that they are using, you must have that exact same encryption to access this website.
So fitting the key within the lock, kind of.
Yes, exactly. So because of that, you do need to know the exact web address that you are trying to access on this browser. You can't just Google something. It's not how it works. However, that being
I
said,
was a little excited for like a dark web search engine,
no.
like demonic.com or like something that was just like, let me pop it in my search browser. Like, I don't know. I was a little pumped because I really wanted to know like what it was called.
Unfortunately, that's not a thing. You do need to know the exact address. Very similar to like if you're trying to go to someone's house, you need that exact address. Otherwise, you may end up somewhere else.
Oh no. Cue crippling anxiety.
So some popular sites that people know about on the dark web would be the Silk Road. I'm not sure if you heard about that in high school.
No.
I definitely did.
I was more worried about Harry Potter in high school. I don't know what your high school experience was like. I mean, yeah, I learned about the historical Silk Road, but I'm pretty sure that's not what I'm going to learn about.
Okay, so the Silk Road back in the early 2000s was used to sell drugs.
It's not that bad.
As well as hitmen.
Just kidding. There it is. I was like, I mean,
Mostly,
out of the list of crimes I was expecting, like drugs, I do not condone.
Mostly it was used for hitmen, though. It was kind of like an eBay of the dark web.
It was the OG Craigslist, but for hitmen.
And drugs.
And drugs.
So acid, LSD, Molly, all of that was stuff that you could find on there. The reason it became very well known when I was in high school, I don't know how you didn't hear about it, but back in 2011, the FBI found out about it.
Oh.
And it was shut down.
As I'm sure they do, yes. Mm-hmm.
So the guy who was running it was put into jail, but that's kind of what brought
this was run, so this one Silk Road with tons of different drugs and hitmen and Craigslist was run by one person. Who is it?
I'm going to have to Google it. One sec.
Do intro music. See, look, you're going on Google.
Well, it's popular knowledge now.
There, right there.
Oh. Ross Ulbricht. I don't know how to say his name.
Albright. Known for created and running the Silk Road website from 2011 until his arrest in 2013. So 2 years he creates this online black market like superpower. I mean, all illegal aspects aside, can we just condone like that A+ business approach? Like, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I'm sorry. I'm this is all super brand new to me, so I'm in shock about a little bit of this. Or a lot of bit about this.
So yeah, that was what kind of brought a lot of it into light. And then, as many of you maybe you've heard of this one, the Ashley Madison leak that happened in 2015. No, okay, so Ashley Madison was a website that was designed to allow people to cheat on their spouses. It was like a dating website for married people.
I mean, how's it any different from like Tinder?
Well, so the major leak was because there were a lot of government officials on there, a lot of big figure people on that website. So somebody, I forget the actual people that hacked into this, but they hacked it and they actually held that information hostage for 30 days. They wanted Ashley Madison to give them some money. They did not cave, and therefore they leaked all of the information.
Oh my gosh.
And there was...
I mean, I feel like my first thought was, oh, so they held that information hostage for the users. But, like, as a site, like a business, like, why would they care? I mean, their users are willingly using this illegal site. Like,
So, fun fact. My old boss actually knew one of the people who helped create it.
What?
Yes.
I feel like this should have been, like, the lead.
So,
But I
did
feel like
not
I have such a
personally,
lame childhood now.
But someone I used to work with actually did know
Mm-hmm.
a person who helped create it. And so, no, that itself was not big. However, it did affect their whole livelihood because now no one touches it. Like, it's destroyed now because
Yeah.
that information was leaked, and that was such a major leak that everyone was like, no, I'm not going near it. Like, it ruined lives, it ruined marriages, which, granted, it should have.
Yeah.
It was a cheating
I mean,
website.
you cheated. Like, you shouldn't get a pat on the back for getting hacked. Like,
yeah, no, like, terrible thing. But it ruined a lot of lives, so no one goes near it anymore, and they did charge for their services.
Okay.
So their livelihood kind of went under as well, which was the whole goal of holding it hostage.
Okay, so the hackers were like, F you, this is a terrible site. Okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
I'm gonna quote her.
Anyway, so we're going into now the whole difference between the dark and deep web. So as I said, deep web refers to all web pages search engines can't find, which would be any private employee information, any emails, anything that's on the internet, but should require a password to access. Okay, actually cut that out because that was not as important as I thought it was. Okay, so why would people want to go to the dark web, you might ask? Well,
I am asking that, I'm not gonna lie.
It is known for illegal activities such as selling drugs, hiring hitmen, buying or selling stolen credit cards, human trafficking, illegal weapon sales, and many other things. However, it can also be a safe haven for people who need to share information without detection.
Oh.
So people who are hiding from an authoritarian regime or journalists use it a lot. So there are positives because this does keep your entire identity hidden.
Okay. I do like that. I mean, like, I'll admit, as somebody who doesn't know much about the dark web, like, I only considered it as, like, a place for really, really bad things. But, like, I see here on that picture you shared with me with the iceberg, it says political protests and things like that. So it is interesting that there's not all bad. There is some good sites in that.
So this is why I said earlier, it's not illegal to access the dark web. There's things on there that are highly illegal.
Yeah.
But it is not all illegal.
And I mean, you could think about, like, in some cases where illegal things are known for good, like new identities and things like that for women running away from bad relationships or people trying to get away or refugees, things like that. That can all be really illegal, but for a good. Again, not condoning any illegal activities, but at the same time...
But there's good reasons behind that stuff.
Yeah, so it can't all be a bad thing.
So these go into, like, the forums and blogs. There are a lot of those on there.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's bad stuff on the surface web. It's just, I mean, it all depends where you go.
Yeah. Okay, so now that we talked about the good, let's talk about why you should avoid it.
Yes.
So it's not all bad, but think of it like a city. You have shopping centers, hangout places, restaurants, and lots of sales places, lots of safe places. But you also have alleys and rough areas in the city. So because you know the exact street address that you want to go and visit, it can...
Sorry, Laura's really interested in the microphone.
Okay, so I'm going to restart the city analogy now.
Okay.
So it's not all bad. Think of it like a city. You have shopping centers, hangout places, restaurants, and a lot of just safe places in general that you just go to. But you also have alleys and rough areas because you must know the exact street address that you want to go to so you can easily visit it. If you don't know it, you could end up in a rough area if you're not familiar with this city.
I thought you couldn't stumble upon things, so how would you accidentally end up?
You know how close some websites are?
Oh, so like a mistype.
Yeah,
or
like,
something. Oh, I'm in trouble.
If
then.
you happen to mistype. Now, I'm not saying it's the easiest thing, but it's still a possibility.
Yeah, and I'm sure if you are doing something like this, you're looking at that thing like 6 times to make sure.
Yeah, and if
Okay.
you're just get on it because you want some fun, you might just randomly start typing things and try to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You're exploring a new city, you going on Yelp reviews, you don't always know if it's a good or
So
bad
it's not
place.
Google. You have no idea what you're getting on.
Yeah.
But you might just start typing.
Oh, my friend recommended this. Oh my gosh, my friend is horribly wrong.
Oh, yeah. There's going to be a few of those we'll hear about. Okay. So the number one reason why people go to the dark web is for crimes.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is harder to trace, as we've already talked about. If you go onto Google and search how to get away with a specific crime, you're probably going to get baited by some law sites.
Mm-hmm.
However, on the dark web, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
You can get onto forums and stuff and figure out how to get away with these crimes.
Okay, I'm sorry. As I was thinking about this, like, your Google how to get away with a crime, I wonder when that show came out, How to Get Away with Murder, how many of those, like, those baiting sites were like, oh, crap, like, like, I'm just looking for a show, I didn't mean to get put on this list, oh no, like.
It's very possible. Anyway, so on the dark web, it's harder to get onto those bait sites because it's harder to trace someone's IP address. It's not impossible, however. It's just extremely difficult. So one thing the FBI does do to try to find things on the dark web and how they've caught some people on there is they do employ hackers who have already been caught doing this crime.
Mm-hmm.
So that is really the only way that they are able to do this is by getting someone who's familiar with the dark web.
Okay,
As
so
an
it's
employee.
like those shows like White Collar and other things where they
Exactly.
use the criminal who's done it as an insider.
And
That's
a
actually one of my topics in the hat is
well, that's a huge,
insiders and informants.
huge thing the FBI does with internet crimes specific.
Yes.
Because otherwise it's just hard to get hackers that know how to do this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so unlike how most pop culture stories lead you to believe, unlike most pop culture stories that lead you to believe something is way worse than it actually is, the dark web is worse than those pop culture stories will tell you. It has scarier and more horrific things on it. Yes, it has some redeemable qualities, but most of those things you'd find by going there are hackers and criminals doing things that they cannot do on the normal web, which is already horrifying if you've just stumbled on the web.
Yeah.
There's a lot of horrifying things on there, so this is 2 layers down.
Well, that's why you can't just like simply get to it. You
So,
gotta.
we just need to remember that there are some horrific stuff. So, story number 1.
Woo, story time.
Cannibal Cafe.
Okay. That was sudden. We went from we didn't go from 0 to 60. We went from like 40 to 100.
So the Cannibal Cafe is a place where, if you couldn't guess, people post that they are either looking for people to eat or that they themselves would like to be eaten.
Okay. In like just logical thinking, I can somewhat get people posting that they'd like to eat someone. Like, if you were to go down that rabbit hole and that was a choice that you were to do, like, yeah, whatever. People have urges that should probably not be spoken about, but whatever. But I don't think I would ever go and think, I would like to get eaten.
I wonder what it feels like.
Yes, I would like someone to just go nom 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 a little bit too hard. Like, no. That's the part that I'm struggling with on that.
So, a guy named Armin Mawais, who's German.
Oh, yes. On my list of topics.
Well, I'm
one
not
of
getting
thing got me most into psychology.
all the way into his crimes. So
Good, perfect.
I'm just kind of highlighting it.
He was Intro to Psychology 101. that was the first case that we ever talked about, and it was the thing that started me down this rabbit hole of loving psychology.
My intro to psychology wasn't that good.
Ha ha ha.
We didn't talk about anything like that. We just talked about brain function.
My professor used to be an abnormal psych professor, so she knew how to get us right into it and be willing to do the homework.
101 is literally what made me hate psychology.
Oh, well.
Because all it was here's how your neurons work.
Ew.
That's all I learned about.
No.
And
That's
every test was knowing
psychology.
exactly what the neurons were called and how they connected and...
It's like biology, not get out of here.
So I quickly dropped my minor. I was planning on getting in psychology due to that. Anyway. Back to Armin Mewise.
I thought it was Mavis. That was
Maybe.
how I...
It's German. I don't speak
usually
German.
those W's or V's and things like that.
Okay, we're going to call him Armin.
Okay,
because I know how to
good.
say that.
Then we're going to get an email that's the word that we're pronouncing incorrectly.
Probably. Where's my boyfriend when I need him?
Yes.
Anyway, so he is a self-confessed cannibal. He admitted that he had met a 43-year-old Berlin engineer, Bernard Brandes, after advertising on the internet and had chopped him up and eaten him.
Because, that's usually what you do when you meet somebody on the web.
Yeah, he thought that there was nothing wrong with Brandes. Oh, there's nothing wrong because Brandes had agreed to be eaten.
I mean, I wonder how many crimes would be excused if that was, like, a reasonable excuse. It's like, they said it was okay. Yeah, I murdered him, but he said okay. Don't you see this legal document? Like, we just drafted it up together over a glass of rosé and decided let's consume each other.
That's called assisted suicide.
Well, yes.
Which
Again,
is
why
illegal
this
in
is not allowed.
most states, but not all. Fun fact.
Oh.
Anyway.
We'll chat about that later.
In March 2001, Armand advertised on the internet for a young, well-built man who wanted to be eaten.
I guess he likes lean meat.
Oh, yeah. And young, like the...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
When we worked in the grocery store and the difference between a young turkey and an older turkey does make the difference at Thanksgiving, we
I
learned.
thought that was about gender.
I don't
No?
remember.
Okay. Anyway, apparently it does to Armand.
Yes. Armin cares about his grade of meat. He wants fresh, organic, grass-fed.
He actually didn't want any older than 30, but everyone else that had replied to him backed out. So,
Oh.
barn days it was because
I mean, it's reasonable that they would back out.
he replied and did not back out. They met up on March 9th, 2001. Armand ate the corpse over the next 10 months, storing the body parts in his freezer under pizza boxes and consuming up to 20 kilograms. That's 44 pounds.
I'm so glad you converted that for me. I was struggling there for a second. But, okay. So, right under the Tostitos pizza rolls was
His
the
body.
human.
Yeah.
Which, like, my first thought that popped into my head is horrible. I was like, I wonder what, like, the FDA... Like, we have all those storage requirements for other types of meat. This is where my mind goes. I'm so sorry, listeners.
Well, the uncooked was under the cooked, so...
That's not allowed. I don't know.
No, that is allowed.
Oh, it is?
You want uncooked, undercooked.
Oh, right. Because you get to it faster. Okay.
Well, I mean, no, because then the juices don't drip onto the cooked food.
Oh.
Yes.
See, we're learning about meat
Health, apparently.
and health and storage standards. All right.
Anyway, so they did meet up on Cannibal Cafe, which was a known site. It has since been defunct, which means it's no longer active for those of you who were confused like I was by the term of the word.
I used context clues there, but yes, I was confused as well.
Took me a little bit to know what that word meant. Anyway, so it is no longer an active site on the dark web or the surface web or the deep web or any webs at all.
Okay. No webs.
Because this case came to surface and the government found out, so yes.
I mean, I'm sure
there's stuff like the Cannibal Cafe back up and running. It's just not known as the Cannibal Cafe.
I'm sorry, that's a fun name. For a terrible site. Absolutely horrendous site. Really clever name. I have to applaud them on that.
Okay. So now we're going to get into some other myths-ish about the dark web that may or may not be true.
Mm-hmm.
So 8chains.
But, like, knowing how the site goes, it just might be true.
So I do think that the background behind these sites are true. I don't think the actual names that I've gotten are real.
Mm-hmm.
Because why would you post the real sites if you've actually gone to these? That's just being dumb. Unless you just clicked on it and left, but these stories are not click on and left. They stayed around for a while.
Yeah.
So, yes. So anyway, so 8chains is...
8chan, like 4chan?
8chans. I'm sorry. You're right. Yes. 8chans. 8chans.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Is a forum where people go for doxing. And doxing is where you post somebody's location or things about them, and then somebody else takes that and uses their information for not so good things. Like they may go to their house and rob them. They may torture them. They may just post things about them on the internet. They may hack their accounts. They can kind of do anything they want with this information once it's posted.
So it's like for people... So you're like, I'm mad at this person.
Yes.
I'm going to post all their information. And then just these random people with nothing better to do just go and harass them?
Yes.
Well, why? I mean, like, I don't know why I would browse and be like, you know what, I'm going to find this random person that I have no idea why their information's on this web, what they're doing, or, like, why they're a thing.
You can hack their bank accounts and get money, or you can post things about them and blackmail them and get money.
Oh.
Remember, these are criminals.
So these are like people sites. Like, I have a vendetta, but I don't want to do the illegal act myself.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
So that is known as doxing. And 8chains is a place where a lot of people do that. They may post the information for like 5 minutes and then take it down. Mm-hmm. And in those 5 minutes, somebody else could have already... tons of people could have pulled it. And then they do whatever they want with this information.
That just sounds... Oh my gosh. And like, yeah, it's up for 5 minutes, but what if like... I don't know if screenshotting's allowed on the dark web, obviously, but probably, like, I feel like that's something...
If you want to scroll down to the next page, I actually have a screenshot of the dark web.
Okay, I don't know if I want this on my computer screen.
I have 4 screenshots, but you can't scroll. So this is Silk Road.
Okay. Wow, that looks exactly like Craigslist. Mm-hmm. That is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Wait, hold up. I need to look at this. So there's like weed for $12. There's speed, $28. Mm-hmm. Jack Frost, which is another type of weed. Oh, it's a $4.20 sale. That's pretty fun. Oh, and I love that there's Michael Jackson's discography for $2.58 too on there.
You know,
like there's just a CD of Michael Jackson along with all these other drugs.
I really was looking at these. I was like, I don't know what these are. I guess that's a drug too.
Yeah, I mean, like I guess so. His tunes are just so good.
Like I literally don't know any of this.
Yeah, no medical lab supplies, forgeries. Like they're just mixed in with some of like the most funny stuff. Like there's books, which I assume are not good books.
So this was on the Silk Road. Like I said, it's kind of like eBay or Craigslist.
Oh, there's a home and garden section. What could be so like terrible in a home and garden section?
Well, they weren't. I mean, if that is the Michael Jackson CD, it's not necessarily illegal unless it's.
Well, maybe it's like.
I guess it could have been stolen.
What was back then? Yeah, like OG pirating.
2011.
Oh, just kidding. Oh, that's back when like LimeWire was a thing.
Yes, LimeWire was a thing, but yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So it could have been pirated, but we don't know. It could just be someone wanted some money.
Yeah.
And didn't want it to be taxed.
Hey, you know that those tax will get you.
Because this was back before Bitcoin, so they were using cash. Now they use Bitcoin.
I really want to know, here on the side it says news, the gift that keeps on giving. What on the Silk Road is the gift that keeps on giving? That's the only thing I care about. I mean, yes. That would probably fit within that. Or, I'm going to go with the Michael Jackson discography. I think that's the gift that keeps on giving.
So if you scroll down one more, you're going to find another sales site. These are the black market weapons.
Okay.
Scroll down one more.
Oh my god, passports.
Yep, you can buy passports on the dark web too.
Yeah, and this was like the one that I talked about earlier. Could be used for good in terms of people trying to get a new identity, get away from somebody, but also people who probably should not have a new identity.
It could be used for both.
Yes.
Okay, stop scrolling until I get to the next topic. Anyway, okay, so back to sites. Pink meth.
I have to applaud the dark web for some great names.
They do have some good names. This was shut down in 2014 by the FBI. So despite the name, the site had nothing to do with drugs. Rather, pink meth was a market mainly for men, whereby they could sell nude photos of their exes for a hefty sum.
That's that was a thing not too long ago on not the surface web. Like, they weren't selling them, but they were posting
deep web. That one. It wasn't Surface. You couldn't Google it, but if you had the link, you could get to it.
Oh, I thought it was. Like, there was, like, some website where people were, like, it was a Facebook group or something like that.
Oh, no. Well, we might be thinking of two different things.
Okay. Well, I was just thinking, like, it was just stupid. Like, they were posting... I think the photos were blurred out. That's why it was, like, semi...
The one that came... I don't know if... Because this was back in the town that I'm from. It was mostly a Swiss site, and it was from the deep web, not dark, not Surface. You had to know the exact website, but you could get to it without a torrent.
Okay.
And they got in a lot of trouble for it, but...
Well, yeah, I mean, that's your ex. Like, they said that to you when you were in a willing, consenting relationship. Like, that's totally wrong. And, like, not even a man doing it. Like, if a woman did that to her boyfriend or ex-boyfriend, it's just horrendous.
It is called revenge porn now, and it is illegal in a lot of states, but not all.
Okay, that's what I think I was thinking of. Like, that just...
The cases, when the site I was talking about came to Surface was kind of when a lot of states were making that illegal.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty...
So there are a lot of
all these things that I've heard of so far, I'm pretty... That's the one that I'm like not all of it. Like, I'm just, that one's not cool. Like, that's just not okay.
They also posted more.
They're all not okay. Let me just clarify.
They posted photos, women's names, home addresses, phone numbers, and any other information the operators could dig up. Then a ransom on the content was delivered to the victim. Pay up to have the photos removed, or let the whole of the dark web have access to your personal information, including your photos, address, and phone number.
That's horrible. Like, could you imagine getting that, just like, hey, look, an email, surprise, I'm being blackmailed with all of my nude photos. Especially if somebody has, like, body issues. Like, no, not even just if they have body issues, just permanently. Like, that's just horrendous.
Yep. So there's also Violent Diaries, which does still exist as of 2016.
I mean, Violent Desires?
I'm sorry. Violent Desires, that does still exist as of 2016. It pretty much describes just what you would do. People sharing their most gruesome and brutal desires. It's a forum. Which now leads me to...
So that one, I mean, I'm trying to get... Like, that one I don't condone. I don't think it's a good idea, but, like, they're just talking about it. They're not saying they have done it.
Which is why it's known and has not been shut down yet.
Okay, so they're saying, so, like, the FBI or whoever's, like, they haven't actually committed the crime. Maybe some of these people we're going to keep on a list.
I'm sure they look up some of these people.
Yeah, but like, they're like, there's nothing we really can do or care about doing.
Until the act's been done, there's nothing illegal about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Number 5. Wait, no, that's not actually number 5. But next, the Red Room. Now, this is something
Red Room. Sorry, first thing I thought of.
Room. That's kind of been debated on whether it's real or not. Most people have come to the conclusion that the idea behind it is true, and there are probably multiple sites that have this idea. But the title being the Red Room is probably not true. Otherwise, it would have been shut down by now.
Okay.
Scroll to the next picture, and you will find a screenshot of what it is supposedly of. So basically in this, there is a live feed of people being tortured and killed. And for a price, you can even be the director. So you can either sit back and watch for free, or you can pay and tell the person behind the camera what they should do to the victim.
Oh my God.
Uh-huh.
You can only no, either or. Like, I get squeamish seeing somebody get a paper cut. That's horrendous.
So if this is real, I have a feeling that a lot of people on Violent Desires happens to also be a frequent member of Red Room.
Oh my gosh.
So now I just have some short stories.
I mean, quick, just like logistic question. I mean, that would totally like being a spectator on that. Is it illegal?
Yes, because you have knowledge of a crime and do not report it.
Okay, that's what I was leaning towards.
Yes.
I'm not, again, saying that this is something you should look out to do because it's not illegal. I knew it probably was. I was just wondering how.
Yes, having knowledge and not reporting it can be considered
Yeah, which I don't know why you wouldn't
illegal in
want
many
to
things.
immediately go, excuse me, I stumbled upon this and this is not okay. Oh my gosh.
So all the stories I've read about the Red Room, basically they change their URL constantly and you have to be invited into it.
Okay.
So
Laura just jumped up. You may hear her again.
okay, so now I just have some stuff pulled off of Reddit. So disclaimer, I do not know for sure that these are true, but I also do not know for sure if they are untrue.
Mm-hmm.
So this one was on tour browsing the usuals. Go out to eat at Five Guys, come back, more tour, find a picture of me eating at Five Guys.
Oh, no thank you. Like, so, was the person purposely following them? Or, like, was it just, like, another site that somebody was, like...
I've heard a lot of stories of people getting on the dark web and then next thing they know, somebody has sent them an email and been like, here's a picture of you. And
oh my gosh. So, like, saying they hacked their identity through their usage of the dark web.
Yep.
So, there was a no sleep story that I read probably about a couple months ago that was pretty good about a person who, like, it's like those mystery unboxing videos on YouTube, but through the dark web.
Oh yeah, there's YouTube has done a lot of those recently.
Yeah, so it's like dark web mystery boxes, and somebody did that, but then next thing they know, the box starts arriving without a return address.
Yeah, I mean, why would you put your return address
well, yeah,
on
no,
it?
but like, it was stop, you know, like, but it was like returning without any sort of sign that it was sent. So, like, the person had been arriving and putting it on their doorstep.
Which is
because
possible.
they knew who they were.
They know your address.
Yeah.
If you're ordering this stuff, they know your address.
Exactly. Well, no, I think, okay, sorry. It's coming back to me the more that you're, like, making fun of me for telling them. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I haven't watched any of the videos. I'm making fun of the videos.
Yeah.
But
no, this
I could
one,
be
like,
wrong.
they had it sent to a P.O. box.
Okay.
And then, obviously, they tracked him through the P.O. box and then started giving it to them to their house. And they're like, excuse me. Probably not what this should be.
Remember, the people on the dark web are expert hackers.
Yeah.
If you're anywhere in the
like
deep
you're dangling a carrot in front of
web.
the top criminals.
You are a hacker.
Yeah.
And you do not want your information out there because there's so many hackers on there. Okay, so I have another one that comes from user NeverLurking77. On the deep web, once upon a time, I was browsing Tor. I paraded myself over to a hidden wiki and hit the random button a few times. What happened next scared the ever-loving poop out of me. There was a web page that took longer to load, even for the Tor standards. And when it finally loaded, in giant black letters on my screen, it said, "You better start running."
Oh, no, thank you. No.
Have not been on the dark web since.
Yeah, that's... Ooh.
Okay, so this one comes from Semper Cerebus off of Reddit as well. Cerebus?
Like the three-headed dog.
It was my third time on the deep web, and I was just looking around at sites. I found this one guy's homepage, and on the sidebar, I saw a link that said, "For journalists and people new to the deep web." I clicked on it, hoping that it was interesting and helpful information. A new page opened, and a picture started to load. Thankfully for my slow internet, because all that loaded was the head of an old Asian man with blood on his chin. I quickly closed the tab before the rest of the image loaded. To this day, I wonder what the whole picture was. At the same time, I'm thankful I didn't see.
Ooh. Man, I can't even imagine. Like, there's just some things on there just from, like, what we've heard today. And, like, this is now the fact that it's common knowledge, you know, that it's either A, been leaked or other people, but, like, you've got to be, there's some things that are, like, tight-lipped. Mm-hmm. How bad is it that it's that tight-lipped?
Yep. So my last one I have is from Hozoko. I found an ISIS recruiting page on Tor, linked from the Hidden Wiki.
Oh my gosh.
So from what I've figured out, again, I've never been on the dark web, disclaimer, but Hidden Wiki is a lot of stuff that comes up, and I take it that it is a site where they actually want people to kind of stumble upon their stuff.
I just got, like, scratched on the inside of my mouth.
She didn't want you to put her down.
Oh, no.
Stop attacking Paige.
Okay.
So,
quick pause for medical emergency. Okay, go ahead.
Medical emergency. So from everything I can find about, like, Hidden Wiki, because that's come up a lot, is that my guess is it's basically a page where you don't have control of where you go, and they just want people to stumble upon it.
Yeah, so that seems like that one where you were talking about, like, accidentally stumbling, but you can't. There's no search engine. This sounds like the closest thing to, like...
You have no control about where you go, though, on this.
It's an engine, but it's on a train that
you
has
there.
no driver.
You
That
just
sounds like
go.
a really bad Russian roulette.
Yeah, it does.
You probably
It
don't
does.
want to be on. Oh my gosh.
So that is the dark web. Again, we do know for sure it is 100% real. Mm-hmm. The sites on there, however, are the things we are not 100% sure of unless you've actually been there and tried to find it. But I do not suggest you going onto the dark web at all.
Like, while it might be legal to access, there may be things that you see that are not legal. And that, the fact of you seeing it could make it. That's when it starts to get dangerous.
Yep.
Plus, I mean, honestly, like, why would you want to see that? I mean, like, there are shows on Netflix that show, like, some gore, and I'm like, whoo.
Yeah, there's a lot of things on there I would never want to see.
Yeah. Or
about 90% of it.
What's the 10%?
I mean, the journalist stuff could be cool.
Yeah, the journalist is cool. Yeah, that is neat. I wouldn't mind that. And I mean, like, honestly, that Silk Road besides the hitmen, didn't seem terrible. Like, even just that screenshot from it was really interesting to look at. Would I go browsing the rest of it? Probably not. Except the home and garden section. I am really curious still.
If you ever went on to the Silk Web from 2011 to 2013,
please tell Paige what is on the home and garden section.
Email us at madhatterpodcast@gmail.com.
If you use a throwaway, that's fine. I just want to know.
Let us know what's on that home and garden.
Is it? That's the only section I care about. It sounds so Joanne Fabrics. I'm so morbidly curious. If it is not something that I want to see, just go ahead. And silence is the best option.
Or just tell us in words. Don't send us a picture.
Please, God, no. No pictures needed. I will have Darby open that one. She can open all the dark web related emails.
Oh, no. I will say, so I pulled some pictures. I texted Paige while pulling pictures that said, I am highly disturbed. I did find a lot of pictures selling cadavers.
Sorry, that was just not what I was expecting to hear right in that sentence. There's this Reddit called Brand New Sentence that I absolutely adore. And it's like the strangest things that it's a combination of words you'd never expect to be put together. That was one of them.
Selling cadavers?
No, just like a collection of selling of cadavers. Yeah, I mean, like, you hear about human trafficking, which is horrible, but they're alive. Like, here's this stinky, smelly corpse. Like, I get why. I was a psychology degree. Yes, I was a psychology degree. I get why people would buy one. I just was not expecting it.
I don't get why you would buy it, but anyway.
They listed, like, car models. Like, I don't know. Sorry, that's a rabbit hole I don't need to go down.
But yeah,
do not email me telling me more about this.
I also I also advise you to not Google pictures of the dark web.
Which now I know 30% of you are going to. Disclaimer, as I said at the beginning of this episode, we now officially disown any claims of liability, any distress
not
that
our
this
fault.
may cause. I am distressed. My wine bottle's almost empty, so while we move over to my section of the podcast, we're going to get some refills.
Yes, we are.
And I'm going to get Laura off my lap because my shirt now looks like a fur coat. All right. Quick pause. Laura, I love you.
Looks like your dead rabbit.
I know.
Yep.
Oh, no, you're good. I already had some already in there.
Okay. I was gonna top you off with like the last remainder.
Nope. But we'll probably need to get some more.
Top you off. I'm gonna take all of it.
Yeah, it's all good. Okay.
So let's hear about the next exciting topic.
I know, might not be as... No, I know it's not going to be as fun as the dark web may seem. I got a pool.
I think it's debatable. Do you have pictures that I need to pull up?
No, I do not.
Okay. That's good.
I
didn't
mean,
really
honestly,
want pictures.
I have Hitler.
I didn't want those.
Most of us know what he looks like. Pretty unforgettable. Yes. Darby sticks her finger under her nose to mimic a mustache. Yes, so pretty unforgettable. I'm first going to go over like a really brief history of Hitler, like his early years. I stopped right before his like rise to power and obviously World War II. Mm-hmm. Not because it's not relevant or something that should be talked about, but we do have later on, one of my topics is the Holocaust and Nazi soldiers, more like the psychology of why they did the things that they did. And then I know Darby has some
I have him in my bag too.
Yes. So it's not that it's not relevant, just for time's sake. It's not going to be a part of this episode. So Adolphus Hitler.
Adolf Hitler?
Yes, but he was actually christened Adolphus.
Oh,
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Fun fact.
Interesting.
Yeah, there was a lot that I've learned about him that I was sitting over there doing my notes and I kept wanting to go, oh my gosh, Darby, listen to this. Oh my gosh, Darby, listen to this. And then I was like, oh, wait.
But you're like, she'll hear.
She'll hear all about it. So, originally christened Adolphus Hitler. He was born April 20th, 420, in 1889 in Braunau am Inn, which is actually a town in Austria-Hungary, close to the German Empire border. Fun fact, he was not German.
I think I remember hearing that.
Yeah, I did not know that. I knew it. In the back of my head, I remember a fact that he was Austrian, not German. But it's still, as I Googled it, I was like, what? Because there was a lot of things like with the whole Aryan race and everything. He just did not fit.
He's not Aryan.
Exactly. He didn't fit what he was preaching about, especially with the German aspects. So he was the fourth of 6 children, but eventually only Hitler and a sister reached adulthood.
What happened to the others? Did he kill them?
No. Thankfully, really, actually, Hitler didn't do much evil things in his adulthood. Like, anything that I have to share, he really didn't commit any crime. There is a potential conspiracy later on. I know, something that you don't know about that I do. Haha, I'm gonna lord this over her head for the next 20 minutes or so. That he may have committed something, but it's unknown. So in the beginning years, no, he didn't do anything. But his 3 siblings, Gustav, Ida, and Otto, had died in infancy.
Okay.
Yeah. So...
When was he born? Did you say that already? I'm sorry.
Yes, 420.
I'm sorry.
April 20th.
What year?
1889.
Okay.
I said it after the fact.
I'm
I think you were
sorry.
so distracted by the fun date.
I think I was distracted by the fact that he had siblings. I didn't know he had siblings.
I didn't either.
And his name.
Yes. No, he had sister. He had a sister that reached adulthood and then 5 other siblings. And then, actually... So his father, so I'm sorry, I don't really know how to pronounce his name.
Again, where's my boyfriend?
Exactly. I thought it was Alois, or Alois Hitler, if I'm going with a French pronunciation, which I probably shouldn't. Exactly.
Yeah,
So I'm going to
not
go
French.
with Alois. Again, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. Hitler and
I'm
Clara.
sorry to Hitler's family that apparently might still exist.
Yes. Alois Hitler and Clara Pozol, which was actually his third wife. So his father, Alois Hitler Sr., was actually the illegitimate child of Maria Anna Schicklgruber, later legitimized and changed his father to his stepfather, Johann George Heidler.
Wait. Changed his father to his stepfather?
Yeah, so on his documentations, he didn't have a father listed.
Okay, his stepfather adopted him.
Yes.
Okay.
So his stepfather adopted him, and so he changed his name. So when he was about 40 years old, Alois decided to adopt the last name of his stepfather, Johann George Heidler.
Oh.
But was for some reason on the legal documents, the spelling was changed to Hitler from Heidler. So his name is Hitler.
But his real name's not Hitler?
Yeah, apparently his stepfather's name is Heidler, and they don't really know, the reason for the spelling change is unknown. It's Hiedler. So, and there's a lot of speculation on who Hitler's father's father was. So, one conspiracy theory.
Hey,
Ha 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 ha.
this is not your part.
I'm sorry. It goes with my part. One theory about it was that there was a claim from Nazi official Hans Frank that Alois's mom was a housekeeper for a Jewish family, and that the 19-year-old son Leopold Frankenberger had fathered Alois. So they think that his father was actually Jewish.
No, I've heard that.
Yeah, but there was no Frankenberger registered in Graz, that city, during that period, and Leopold Frankenberger has no record of existence. So that's been pretty much debunked. Historians have no claim that his father was Jewish. But then they also speculate that his stepfather, Johann Georg Heidler, was actually his biological father, but he was illegitimate.
Okay.
So, they were later married and then officially legitimized.
But, yeah.
So, they don't really...
Okay.
So, the beginning of Hitler's family tree really begins there.
So, basically Hitler's an alien. Got it.
Yes. Really early on, we were just seeing a trend of daddy issues. No. So, that history, it's a little bit unknown. So... Also in the house the 6 children from Hitler's mom was 2 children from Alois's second marriage, Alois Jr. and Angela. They were born in 1882 and 1883. So they were Hitler's older siblings from his father's second marriage.
But they didn't survive?
No, I think they're there. I think that they're just saying of Hitler's biological full-blood siblings, only he and his sister survived.
Sorry, I think of step and half siblings as real siblings.
I do too. I have a half brother,
saying.
But yeah, apparently this history does not. So they did move to Germany when he was 3 to Passau. So there he acquired his distinctive Lower Bavarian dialect rather than the Austrian Germany. So dialect. So he always spoke in a Bavarian dialect. He never spoke with a German accent. Okay. So even furthermore,
I'm gonna be honest, I can't tell the difference.
Yeah. Apparently, yes, there is a difference. And that's something that was really distinctive to his tone. But then, so there's a lot of moving around. In 894, they returned to Austria and settled in Leonding. And then in June 1895, Alois retired to Hayfield near Lambach, where he farmed and kept bees.
He was a beekeeper?
He was a beekeeper.
Oh,
Hitler's father was a beekeeper.
That's awesome.
I know. But his farming efforts failed in Hayfield, and in 1897 they moved to Lambach. And so here, this is where 8-year-old Hitler took singing lessons. He sang in the church choir, and he considered being a priest.
Was he what?
Yes.
Wait, back up.
Hitler wanted
What?
to be a priest. For 2 years, he seriously considered being a priest. Can we just back up? Pause. That's the end of my podcast. Can you imagine if that was the end of that history?
If he just was a priest?
Yeah.
Well, the world would be a much better place.
Yeah, definitely highly different.
Maybe. I don't know. He could have...
Fun fact, you'll learn later on why Hitler was the way that he was. Those anti-Semitic notions and German things actually were going on well before Hitler.
No, yeah.
Yeah, he just became a
No, I know that.
spokesperson. Yeah.
I know those were ideas before, but...
So yeah, he wanted to be a priest. And that would have given us a very different history, and I would have had a very boring podcast, and people would have been like, why are you talking about this random German dude?
Well, he probably wouldn't be on either of our podcasts.
Yeah, exactly. But then a year later, the family moved permanently to Landing in 1898, and there his brother, Adolf's brother Edmund, died in 1900 from measles.
1995.
Not 1990. He was a very, very old man. No. 1900, he died from measles.
See, vaccination.
Yes. So his father suddenly died, and so Adolf's father, Alois, suddenly died in January 3rd of 1903, and his performance in school and Hitler's performance in school deteriorated until his mom allowed him to leave. So he enrolled in Realschule in Steyr in September of 1904. He passed a repeat of a final exam in 1905, but then he just left school without any ambitions for further education or clear career plans. Sounds pretty familiar.
Okay.
Sounds like me here coming up soon.
Yeah, me too. It's fine.
Just struggling
Everything's
a little bit.
fine.
Yep. So in 1907, he left Linz to live and study fine art in Vienna, financed by orphans' benefits and support from his mother. I was a little confused by that because his mother was still alive. I think it's because the father mainly being the main moneymaker back then. And so he applied for admission to the Academy of Fine Arts of Vienna and was rejected twice. The director recommended he apply to the School of Architecture, but he lacked the necessary academic credentials since he didn't finish secondary school. So, rejected twice. They said, hey, try this out. And, oh, just kidding, you're not qualified.
That doesn't matter.
Yep.
Oh, that would make anyone upset.
Yeah. So, he got rejected, and it was a little bit awkward. And then, to just kind of add salt to the wound, in December 21st of 1907, his mom died of breast cancer. He had a difficult relationship with his father, but he adored his mom and was reportedly grief-stricken by her death. So, his father had just died, and then 4 years later, his mom dies.
Perfect.
And then, remember that, 3 years before his father, his brother died of measles.
Sounds amazing.
Okay, so at this point, he's lost a lot of his family, and in 1909, he ran out of money and was forced to live a bohemian life in homelessness shelters and a men's dormitory. So Hitler was a bohemian.
Okay, I'm going to sound dumb, but what's a bohemian?
You know?
I've heard Bohemian Rhapsody, but I don't know really what it is.
So what that bohemian means, it's a good question, I'm not even gonna lie. So it's like a person who has informal or unconventional social habits, like an artist or a writer. So kind of just...
The song makes more sense now.
Kind of like a native or inhabitant of Bohemia. Like, I don't know, I think it's like kind of how I took it was like just like an artist who doesn't really live like a conventional lifestyle, just kind of like a gypsy but more artsy.
I'm just a poor boy from a poor family.
Kind of, just like he's an artist. He sings, like, and I'm using the Queen version now. He sings, he's from a poor family, all that fun stuff. So yes, Hitler was a bohemian, and he was homeless, and he ran around selling his artwork as much as he could to try to make a living. Well, we don't know yet.
I'm sorry.
But then eventually he received the final part of his father's estate in May 1913 and moved to Munich, Germany. He was called up for conscription into the Austro-Hungarian army, so he journeyed to Salzburg on February 5th, 1914 for medical assessment. He was deemed by medical examiners as unfit for service, so he returned to Munich. So the first time he tried to get into army service, he was rejected.
I knew about that.
Kind of a common theme for
He just
Hitler.
has a lot of rejection.
Yeah, twice.
Nobody likes him.
Twice from the arts, once from the architecture. His father rejected him a lot.
Nobody loves him.
No. I'm not gonna lie, during part of my research for this, kind of feel bad for him. And then, so this is just the history. I'll talk more into
But
why.
he's still a child, so we can feel bad for him now. I mean,
Yes.
he's not a real child, but he's like
He hasn't made any of his life-altering
He's
decisions.
young.
But we're getting there.
So
We're getting there.
it's still sad.
So, yeah, this is, again, just the history. I'm going to talk more into why Hitler is, well, the Hitler that we know today in a little bit. So, he was not fit to serve the Habsburg Empire because of the mixture of races. Oh, I'm so sorry. So he was rejected, but then he later claimed that he did not wish to serve the Habsburg Empire because of the mixture of races in its army and his belief that the collapse of the Austria-Hungary was imminent.
Wait, mixture of races. So like he only wanted to fight with.
He thought,
Area
he's like saying that
people.
area has too many types of people.
Okay.
Thanks, Hitler.
Got it.
So, a lot of I talk about this later, but a lot of his anti-Semitic and racist ideology came while he was in Vienna. Some people say that it started earlier than that, but his time in Vienna was really when it started. It started accelerating and getting a lot worse. So he's kind of like the ex-boyfriend who got dumped and then later said, "Oh well, I didn't want to be in this relationship anyway."
Because we all have that one ex.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh well, you broke up with me, but I originally didn't want to be here anyway. So
But I was
whatever.
gonna break up with
I
you
won."
first.
Yeah.
So
Then we move on to World War One. So in August 1914, at the outbreak of World War One, Hitler was living in Munich and voluntarily enlisted in the Bavarian army. According to a 1924 report by the Bavarian authorities, allowing Hitler to serve was almost certainly administrative error. Since he was an Austrian citizen, he should have been returned to Austria.
Wait. Okay.
So
Okay.
a lot, when I was researching, a lot of this was like a choose your own adventure path that went horribly wrong.
It's like those books. You remember those books?
Yeah, exactly. But
Turn to
but
page 50
along
if you
this
would
path,
like.
it kept going the wrong way. Wanted to be a priest, his father said no. Wanted to be in the Bavarian army, and there was administrative an error that allowed that to happen. So there's just a lot going on that you're like, could have, like, the history of Hitler as we know it could have potentially been avoided if somebody had done their paperwork correctly.
If you want to hear how Hitler became a priest, go to minute 3. If you want to hear how
How Hitler should have not been allowed into the army and started his army and political career, start back 5 minutes ago. Can you imagine being the person that effed up that paperwork? Being like, oh my god, Hitler should have never been involved in this war in the first place if I had just looked at his background.
and then in 20 more years being like, oh no, I'm the cause of millions of deaths.
Yeah,
I guess it's more than 20,
thanks,
but still.
Sharon. Great job looking up his paperwork. Oh my gosh. So
Wow.
he was posted to the Bavarian Reserve Infantry Regiment 16, the 1st Company of the List Regiment, where he served as a dispatch runner on the Western Front in France and Belgium, spending nearly half his time at the regimental headquarters, well behind the front lines. So later on, we'll talk about how he described his service in the army as he was in danger every single day, and how it was just like he was super brave and fought so much, but he was like an office runner basically.
He was never on the front lines. He was
at the headquarters running dispatch.
Wow.
Yeah. So during his service at headquarters, Hitler pursued his artwork, drawing cartoons and instructions for an army newspaper. So he's still doing his artistry, and like if you Google it, you can find a lot of his cartoons and artwork. And then during the Battle of Somme in October 1916, he was wounded in the left thigh when a shell exploded in the dispatch runner's dugout. He was decorated for bravery, receiving the Iron Cross, second class, in 1914. He spent almost 2 months in a hospital at Belitz, returning to his regiment on March 5th, 1917. On a recommendation by Lieutenant Hugo Gutmann, Hitler's Jewish superior.
I like Gutsman.
Hitler's Jewish superior, he received the Iron Cross First Class on August 4th, 1918, a decoration rarely awarded to one of Hitler's I'm so sorry, if anybody can correct me on this, Gefreiter rank. He received the Black Wound Badge on May 18th, 1918. So, on October 15th, 1918, he was temporarily blinded in a mustard gas attack and was hospitalized in Pacewalk. While there, Hitler learned of Germany's defeat, and by his own account, upon receiving this news of their defeat, he suffered a second bout of blindness. He was blinded by their defeat.
Oh, he was struck by such travesty.
Yes. So, something that I found interesting, when he committed suicide in 1945, he was wearing the Iron Cross First Class Medal earned for his service in World War I, which, if you remember, was given to him by his Jewish superior.
Wow, so many things.
Yeah, so like I get it was a really important award for him, especially for somebody who was just a dispatch runner. But he, I mean, it was on the recommendation by a Jewish superior that he got that, and he's gonna wear it while committing suicide after his orders killed millions of Jewish people.
Uh-huh.
That seems like a Hitler thing to do.
If it was really him. Anyway, go on.
Yes, Darby has a whole conspiracy theory about it, which I'm very interested in.
We'll get into that later.
So this honor was especially important to Hitler, who portrayed himself as a hero during the conflict. Although he was wounded during the First Battle of Somme in 1916, recent research challenges Hitler's account of his war experience. Some believe he saw little, if any, frontline action, instead was a runner at a relatively safe regiment headquarters. So, so that he says he's, like, in danger every single day, but, like, the research is like, nah.
Like,
fam, you're
more
fine.
safe than the people at home.
Yeah, you were good. You were cushy. And then during that temporary blindness during the mustard gas attack, the medical documents state that he had hysterical blindness.
Oh, so he wasn't even really, like, blind or injured at all. He was just mentally ill.
Pretty much. So a lot of the research now is kind of going up against it. And then his citation for the Iron Cross First Class fails to mention a specific incident of bravery. So some people speculate that it was just to honor his, like, length of service and his general likability with officers.
Oh, so he didn't even deserve an award.
I mean, yeah, it was like saying, hey, you've been here a long time and you're a pretty nice guy.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Got it. So, post-World War I, he returned to Munich. So without formal education or career prospects, he just remained in the army. He didn't have much else going on. So in July 1919, he was appointed an intelligence agent of a reconnaissance unit of the Reichswehr, assigned to influence other soldiers and to infiltrate the German Workers' Party, also known as the DAP. So this will come back with more importance a little bit later, but at the DAP, he met Dietrich Eckart, one of the party's founders and a member of the occult through society. Eckhart became Hitler's mentor, exchanging ideas with him and introducing him to a wide range of Munich society. So, to increase its appeal, the DAP changed its name to the National Sozialistische Arbeiterparty, also known as the National Socialist German Workers' Party, NSDAP. Hitler designed the party's banner of a swastika in a white circle on a red background.
Oh.
Yes, so now you're starting to really see the rise of his political influence, the Nazi regime, and a lot more of his rise to power. So Hitler was discharged from the army on March 31st, 1920, and began working full-time for the NSDAP. The party's headquarters was in Munich, a hotbed of anti-government German nationalists determined to crush Marxism and undermine the Weimar Republic. In February 1921, already highly effective at crowd manipulation, he spoke to a crowd of over 6,000. To publicize the meeting, 2 truckloads of party supporters drove around Munich waving swastika flags and distributing leaflets. Hitler soon gained notoriety for his rowdy polemic speeches against the Treaty of Versailles, rival politicians, and especially against Marxists and Jews. So you're really starting to see here, and a lot of this, I will say, I got a lot of his history from the Wikipedia article. I did, on Adolf Hitler, I did go back and look at some of the sources and more information, so a lot of these words are pretty much quoted from that if you want more detailed history about Hitler. These are just little snapshots and bulletin points. But I did mention these because these are really the parts where you start to see more of, you see the swastika flag, you see his anti-Semitic views, and where he starts to get some of his political background. Yep. So kind of like the last big thing I'm going to talk about in his history was the Beer Hall Putsch. So in 1923, Hitler enlisted the help of World War I General Erich Ludendorff for an attempted coup known as the Beer Hall Putsch. So on November 8th, 1923, Hitler and the SA stormed a public meeting of 3,000 people organized by Kahr and the Burgerbaukeller, a beer hall in Munich. So he announced the national revolution had begun and declared a formation of a new government. So Hitler had his gun out and he was demanding support of all these politicians. But they quickly withdrew their support, and neither the army nor the state police joined forces with Hitler.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, so here we see yet another really bitter rejection.
Yeah, but it's a good rejection.
So this was his first attempt to really rise up and start a movement, and it failed drastically.
I support this rejection.
Yeah. So they tried to overthrow the Bavarian government, but the police dispersed them, just kind of like shoo fly.
Good for them.
16 NSDAP members and 4 police officers were killed in the failed coup. So Hitler fled, and he contemplated suicide at this point. Again, another one of those choose-your-own-adventure novels where it could have ended there.
Yeah, I mean, if he had succeeded, everything would be better. I'm sorry, that sounds terrible, but...
Yeah, in no way are we advocating suicide, Darby.
Unless you're going to be Hitler.
I mean, but at any point do you know that? You're like, did he sit there going, I'm going to cause the largest tragedy of all time?
If you're going to cause the Holocaust, then debatable on whether
oh my
that's a
God.
good choice.
Okay, this is Darby's side, not mine. I'm just... But yes, another side of the choose your own adventure where our history could have gone completely different. So he was depressed but calm when arrested on November 11th, 1923 for high treason. So he got 5 years in prison, but he received friendly treatment from the guards. He was allowed mail from supporters and regular visits by party comrades. So, he just tried to overthrow the government and plan a coup.
But they're all allowed to visit.
Yeah, and he only got 5 years, but they're like, hey, here's some mail from your supporters and your, other fellow leaders. I feel like they would keep them separate.
This is when he wrote that book, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So he got 5 years at Landsberg, but he only spent about a year in prison.
Wait, what?
Yes.
Okay.
So he was pardoned by the Bavarian Supreme Court, the same government he tried to overthrow.
Why was he pardoned?
Because he was I don't know. Like, the state prosecutor objected to this, like, obviously.
If you're going to come and try to overthrow me, I'm going to be like, you are never getting out.
Yeah. And I'm not going to let you see your visitors. I'm not letting you get fan mail. Like, so including time on remand, Hitler served just over 1 year. So while at Landsberg, he dedicated most of his first volume of Mein Kampf, also known as My Struggle, and it was originally entitled 4.5 Years of Struggle Against Lies, Stupidity, and Cowardice. I'm sorry, that sounds like I know, it sounds like a teenage drama, like a diary, like, oh, my lies and stupidity and cowardice that I had to fight against in 4.5 years. Like, I'm sorry. I do support his name change to just My Struggle. That sounds a lot better.
Wait,
Still not the best.
Well, Mein Kampf is German, so I'm guessing My Struggle is the English version of that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that is what it is.
That's what, okay.
So he dedicated it at first to his chauffeur, Emile Maurice, and then to his... Oh no, Laura, you're stuck on my sweater.
A moment while we detach the cat.
Yes. He dedicated the first volume of Mein Kampf to his chauffeur, Emile Maurice, and then to his deputy, Rudolf Hess. So, yeah, he dedicated to his chauffeur. That's kind of nice, though.
Well, I'm guessing his chauffeur wasn't Jewish.
Well, probably not, because throughout the book, Jews are presented as the equivalent of germs and the international poisoners of society. Ow.
Get off! Detach!
Ow.
What is wrong with you?
Sorry, I got viciously attacked by a cat. I love you, Laura, but ow.
What is wrong? Okay.
Back it up.
I have the cat restrained.
So, yes, because throughout the book, Jews are presented as the equivalent of germs and the international poisoners of society. And he laid out his plans for transforming society into one based on race.
Okay, so he's saying they're germs. Well, he's what's the thing that attaches to you and takes over your body? Parasite. He's a parasite.
Yes, pretty much. Like, wow, this whole race of people, you know what, you're just germs. Like, rude much? Ugh. Okay. So, according to Hitler, the only solution was extermination.
Oh my gosh.
There's no other solution.
No.
We must go solely to extermination.
You can't learn to live together or anything.
No.
You just must kill.
We're just going to skip any other horrible equivalent, like, I don't know, imprisonment, lower society. Nope, you just have to die.
That's how you get rid of a parasite, like Hitler.
Yeah. That's like one person, not an entire race of people.
He himself is a parasite.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, sorry.
So this began the rise to his power in the beginnings of World War III. So I would, again, in another episode...
Wait. World War III?
Oh my gosh, no. Pause. So, thus began his rise to power in the beginnings of World War II.
That sounds better.
Much better. No, World War III has not happened. And hopefully will not.
Especially not that way.
Yes.
Hitler rising from the dead.
Zombie Hitler back again. Sounds like a really bad, horror movie. Like, Zombie Hitler rise again.
Pick up your axes and... shotguns and prepare for Holocaust Part 2.
Holocaust Part. That's terrible. Oh my god. So I would continue on to more detail about Hitler, but a lot of that history and going on to World War II is known, and we'll probably discuss it in a later podcast. But again, my part is psychology, so we're going to talk about why was Hitler the Hitler that we know? Why
it wasn't because of rejection?
That's one of the possible reasons.
Okay.
Yes, don't worry. That's going to be talked about. There are a lot of different, obviously not Hitler not being around today to ask him or do a full psychological profile.
That we know of.
That. Yes, Darby, stop advertising your own podcast in comparison to mine. Not being around to ask. Well, I death glare at Darby to be quiet. We don't have a full psychological workup, so a lot of this is speculation and a lot of notes that I took. So first and foremost was his father. Hitler and his father, Alois, had a lot of conflict. So when they moved to Hayfield in 1895, when he went to become a beekeeper, his father.
Aww, that's so sweet.
Yes, this actually started an intense father-son conflict when Hitler refused to conform to the strict discipline of his school.
Was it the bees? Because of the bees?
Bees? Sorry, that's our favorite card on Cards Against Humanity. Just bees? Question mark?
It was the bees!
No, the bees did not cause the Holocaust. That feels like a really fun jump that I want to know. Like,
the bees caused the Holocaust?
The bees have caused the Holocaust. No.
Oh, no.
So anyway, Hitler refused to conform to the strict discipline of his school, which when I read this, I was a little shocked because all throughout his history and as he was young, Hitler was more free-spirited and his father was very strict and controlling. And I don't know, I just always viewed Hitler as this strict dictatorship.
Well, he was strict to others.
Exactly.
But he wanted to be free and free. And
that was part of it, is that his father, he actually beat him. And he had this double dose of supervision, discipline, and regimentation under the watchful eyes of his teachers at school, and then had to go home to his strict father. So his father had spent most of his life working up through civil service. He's used to giving orders and having them obeyed and expect this from his children. So this was his role model. His role model was this strict authoritarian figure. You listen to me or I will beat compliance out of you. So a lot of views are that that's how he got a lot of his viewpoints and where his ideologies when it comes to leadership and being a man. And the Hitler family lived on a small farm outside of Linz, Austria. They had farm chores to perform along with their schoolwork. So a lot of hard labor no matter what. So you could probably see that echoed later with his labor concentration camps.
Yep.
Not only that work has to get done, but labor is a way to beat compliance out of people. Mm-hmm. So this crowded little farmhouse apparently got on the nerves of Hitler's father a lot. And so his oldest boy from Alois's second marriage, so Hitler's half-brother, Alois Jr., he was 13 and he bore the brunt of his father's discontent. Yeah, so he got a lot of harsh words and occasional beatings. So then at age 14, he had actually ran away from home. And then... I
don't blame him.
Exactly. I don't either. But with him gone, Hitler had to take the fall for all the abuse and all this. So at age 7, Adolf was next in line for all this treatment. Yeah, so this is when I did feel a little bit of sympathy, is that he did have a really rough life with his father, and I haven't even gotten halfway through my bullet points about his dad. So there's a lot of trauma there. So in Leonding, his father became successful in the Customs Bureau, and he wanted Hitler to follow in his footsteps. So Hitler later talks about this time later on in his life, and he says that he took him on a visit to the customs office where he worked, trying to take your son to work today, or take your future dictator to work today. And he said that it was the start of just this unforgiving antagonism between his father and son, who were both super strong-willed. So you got these two alpha males in the house, Hitler, who wants to do as he pleases, and his dad, who is basically just the biggest a-hole ever. But I mean, his dad, that was how he was raised as well. That was how it was back then. It was more strict, but again, the abuse and the constant strict fellowship pushed it over the edge. So his father ignored Hitler's desire to attend classical high school and become an artist, and instead sent him to the Realschule in Linz in September 1900. Hitler rebelled against this decision, obviously, and states in Mein Kampf that he purposely decided to do bad in school, as he quotes himself saying, "What little progress I was making at the technical school," say that when his dad saw what little progress I was making at technical school, he would let me devote myself to my dream. This did not work, as we do not know Hitler as an artist and instead know him as a madman.
No, but it would have been better if he was an artist.
I know, apparently, and like from what I've seen, his art isn't bad. Yes, go browse on a quick Google. Some of his paintings and some of his art's actually really nice.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, there's some of his paintings, if they were not done by Hitler, I would have hung up in my house, because they're super cool. I highly recommend looking them up. He has this one of this castle, like, on top of this really steep rock in front of all these mountains, and it's stunning, and it's, again, one that I would have hung up, but instead it was made by Hitler.
They're really good.
Mm-hmm. So he did, so if we had known him as an artist, and he did have a lot of talent, it would have been a very different choose your own adventure path again. So there were frequent arguments at home, and the authoritarian father, the idea of being an artist just was utterly ridiculous to him. He was like, this is absurd. You need to do civil service like I did, and if you don't agree with it, I'll just beat it out of you.
It's like, you aren't Van Gogh.
Yeah. So fun fact also, Hitler's father worked as an Austrian imperial customs agent and continuously expressed loyalty to the Habsburg monarchy. So this perhaps unknowingly encouraged his rebellious son to give loyalty to the German Kaiser. So, like, Hitler was raised to rebel against his father, and therefore they're thinking that any ideology that his father had, Hitler would inherently rebel against as a way to rebel against his father.
Huh.
So this was, like, kind of a viewpoint at the beginning of his own ideologies and his own issues with authority, including seeing how to be a leader. So his father, after his father had died, there's no one who could tell young Hitler what to do, so he did exactly as he pleased.
Okay.
Including starting the Holocaust.
Well, okay.
Yes.
I don't have anything else to say about that.
So, and one thing that I noted that I read, it's like they said that to young Hitler, the idea of daily work with its necessary submission to authority was revolting. So if he thought that was the worst thing in the world, daily work with submission to authority,
did that.
He did it to his enemies. So if that's the worst thing in the world, he's like, well, then I'll create the labor camps, and they'll be the worst punishment that I always feared.
Maybe that's why he sent the women and children just to death right away, because he thought that was better than hard labor.
Fun fact, going into it, he did have a soft spot for children and women.
So,
in terms of his own family, so this is another speculation, the death of his younger brother Edmund. So in 1989, he had died of measles. So this changed Hitler from a confident, outgoing, and conscientious student to a morose, detached boy who constantly fought with his father and teachers. So this was something that deeply affected him. He loved his younger brother. It shook him badly. And then, really horrifying, his brother was buried right outside. And so from his bedroom window, Adolf could see the cemetery and where his brother was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so not only did his younger brother die, he could also look out his window and see the cemetery and the grave. As like a constant reminder.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds perfect.
So while the talks about his soft spot towards women and children have never been discussed, it does appear that like a lot, especially with the death of his mother, from breast cancer, which he's super, like, it was absolutely devastating to him. It shows that he loved the rest of his family and that it did have a deep impact on him. So his father and the death of his younger brother were definitely early indicators on traumas that started Hitler down his path. And the next thing that I'm going to talk about, and really a big piece that a lot of people cite when talking about Hitler, is rejection. So he was in the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts in 1907. At age 18, he withdrew all of his inheritance money from the bank and he went to live and study in Vienna. At this point, his mom was suffering from breast cancer and was unsuccessfully operated on, but he wanted to be an artist so bad that he decided that it was worth leaving, and he was hoping that his mom would survive. So he took he took the test, and one site said that he was confident and self-assured. He awaited the result, quite sure that he would get in, but failure struck him like a bolt of lightning. His test drawings were judged unsatisfactory, and he was not admitted. He was badly shaken by this rejection. He went back to the academy to get an explanation and was told his drawing showed a lack of talent for artistic painting, notably a lack of appreciation of the human form. He was told, however, that he had ability for the field of architecture.
So he left home, his dying mother, to go pursue this dream that he then was told he's not good enough to do.
Yes. And they told that he might have talent in architecture, but as we learned...
He did not.
He didn't have the qualifications to even attempt it.
Yeah.
He did have a lot of talent in architecture, and it was cited saying that he could look at a building and then draw like the schematics out for it almost to perfection. So he apparently had a lot of talent, but due to his lack of qualification, he couldn't even attempt it.
Wow.
Yeah. So so he, now feeling quite depressed, he left Vienna, returned home where his beloved mother was now dying from cancer.
Awesome.
Yes. So he gets rejected, and then he goes and he finds out his mother was now dying.
So all of his dreams are crushed.
Yes.
Okay.
So one site, it was the Jewish Virtual Library, which I highly recommend people checking out. It had a lot of really good information. It said, embittered at his rejection by the Viennese Academy of Fine Arts, he was to spend 5 years of misery and woe in Vienna, and he later recalled adopting a view of life which changed very little in the ensuing years, shaped as it was by a pathological hatred of Jews and Marxists, liberalism, and the cosmopolitan Habsburg monarchy. So existing hand-to-mouth on occasional odd jobs and the hawking of sketches in low taverns, the young Hitler compensated for the frustrations of a lonely bachelor's life and miserable male hostels by political hangouts and cheap cafes to anyone who would listen, and indulging in grandiose dreams of a greater Germany.
Wow.
Yes, so most cited, most common idea that people thought that led Hitler was the whole rejection. A lot of people say that his place was taken by a Jewish student. There's really no evidence of that. It really wasn't brought up in any of the research that I've done. Really, it was just solely the rejection.
Maybe he assumed that it was taken by a Jewish student, and there is no proof. But that's what he thought.
A lot of people say that they were germs in this. That he said that they were germs in the society and they were polluting, and that assumption is really what people assume is why that's so common knowledge. Another aspect was his personality. So when talking about himself, he said that he was an argumentative little ringleader who liked to stay outside and hang around with husky boys in his boyhood. His half-brother Alois Jr. later described him as quick to anger and spoiled by his indulgent mother. So,
True.
Yes.
True.
And then he would, so later during his teen years, after his father died, he was free from all that responsibility, was the happiest time of his life. So he really started to get a hint of that power dynamic and being able to make his own decisions and no longer being under anybody else's control. So he actually had a friend named August Kubizek, who wanted to be a great musician. They met at an opera in Linz. Kubizek found Hitler fascinating, and a friendship quickly developed.
Okay.
Can you imagine being her later on? I was friends with Hitler.
But
I don't blame her. She didn't. She said she turned out to be a very patient listener. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, August. He was a very good audience for Hitler, who rambled for hours about his hopes and dreams. He even gave speeches complete with wild hand gestures to an audience of one. So he described Hitler's personality as violent and high-strung. He would only tolerate approval from his friend and could not stand to be corrected, a personality trait he had shown in high school and as a younger boy as well.
I mean, I believe that. 100%.
So very rebellious, very high-strung, quick to anger, and did not like to be held down or critiqued in any way. There's a lot of signs of narcissism, lots of signs of anger. So the signs were there pretty early on of a personality suited for what Hitler later did. Not saying that these signs would lead to that, but again, a lot of these different speculations all combined into this like giant kettle, into this giant kettle pot and powder keg.
Okay. Yep. I mean, yeah. We're laying the foundations.
Yes. And finally, that failure of the beer hall push, the failed rebellion, that actually transformed Hitler from an incompetent adventurer to a shrewd political tactician.
Well, I mean, he probably learned, well, that didn't go well. Let's try again.
Yes. This is when his manipulations began. He used his oration skills to really get people to listen and follow him. And this is where he really started to build strength politically.
I see.
Now, going on, where did Hitler get his anti-Semitic views?
Everywhere.
Pretty much. So, again, really, pre-World War I and post-World War I, like many Austrian Germans, Hitler began to develop German nationalist ideas from a very young age. That's not to say that German nationalist ideas are anti-Semitic. It was just the laying foundations that led on to it. He was so proud of that pride in his country, later led him to think of, combined with anti-Semitism, led him to think Jews are a germ. In order to keep my country safe, they need to be gone.
Okay.
Yes. So he was first exposed to racist rhetoric in Vienna while living the bohemian lifestyle. Again, sentence I was not expecting. Again, I only know Bohemia as Bohemian Rhapsody and like some
poor boy from a poor family.
And like Moulin Rouge, the movie, how they always talk about the bohemian lifestyle. I just did not combine that with racist rhetoric.
He's just a poor boy from a poor family. Sorry, that's all.
In his life.
It's stuck in my head now.
So So yeah, populists like Mayor Karl Lueger exploited the climate of rule and anti-Semitism and occasionally espoused German nationalist notions for political effect. George Ritter von Schrödener became a major influence on Hitler, and Hitler also admired Martin Luther.
Oh, wait, what?
Yes. Martin Luther.
That's the father, right?
Yes.
Martin Luther King Jr.'s dad?
No. Like Martin Luther, like nailed to the door.
I was like, wait, back up.
Yes, Reformations, all that.
Okay, sorry. I'm like, wait,
different time period.
Preaching equality?
Yeah.
No? Okay.
He read local newspapers like Deutsche Volksblatt, which fanned prejudice and played upon Christian fears of being swamped by an influx of Eastern European Jews. So here's where you really start to see the German nationalists being combined with the anti-Semitism that was around him. So there's lots of disagreement on when he became anti-Semitic. A lot of people from his life, like friends and family, say that it was there way before he went to Vienna. He himself quoted that it started in Vienna when he was exposed to it. Hitler was very open with his views, obviously,
All
throughout Mein
ideas.
Kampf, and he shared a lot, but as we've discussed before, especially with his Iron Cross, it's not always seemed to be true.
Well, he didn't think that it was bad, so why would he not be open about it?
Exactly.
If he thought he was right.
He was trying to get people to follow his ideology.
Yeah.
So his wartime experience reinforced his German patriotism, and he was shocked by their capitulation. So like their signing the peace treaty in November 1918. His bitterness over the collapse of the war effort began to shape his ideology. So World War I, the end of that, for him and a lot of German people, really started that anger. And one part that really came from that, they believe in the stab in the back myth. I love that face that you make. That's the face I made when I read it. So the stab in the back myth was really, it's an explanation for World War I. It was believed by right-wing circles in Germany after 1918. So they believe that the German army did not lose World War I on the battlefield, but it was instead betrayed by civilians on the home front.
Oh.
Yes. So they say they denounced the German government leaders who signed the armistice on November 11th, 1918 as the November criminals. Okay. Yes. He said they were criminals, that they betrayed the German people by signing the peace treaty, that they were winning the war effort, that there was no way they should have lost, but instead, in order to gain power, they signed the treaty. So when the Nazi Party came to power in 1933, they made the legend an integral part of their official history of the 1920s, portraying the Weimar Republic as a work of the November criminals who stabbed the nation in the back to seize power while betraying it. So Hitler believed we should not have lost World War I. This was all a coup by civilians, and later talks about the Jewish people involved who signed this treaty when they should not have. In order to gain power after the fact. Because once you signed the treaty, you were given the power because they're like, oh, you want peace? Then we'll keep you in power so that peace is maintained. So the anti-Semitic instincts of the German army were revealed well before the stab in the back myth became the military's excuse for losing the war. In 1916, in the middle of World War I, the army ordered a Jewish consensus of the troops with the intent to show that the Jews were underrepresented in the army, and that they were overrepresented in non-fighting positions. So they're saying, you're not doing your part, you're not part of the fighting force, and you were, so you have no claim to any victory or loss.
Can I say I thought this was going a different way?
How so?
Well, I thought it was going to be like, yeah, they were underrepresented, so we need to make the army more equal. And
No, how unequal it actually.
Not being like, oh, well, you didn't do your part.
Yeah. But the census actually showed that Jews were overrepresented both in the army as a whole and in fighting positions at the front. So they then suppressed the results of the census. Because it didn't agree with them.
Okay.
Because that's what you do when you're trying to make a point. So the representatives of the newly formed Weimar Republic signed the armistice with the Allies on November 11th that would end World War I, so that the military then relinquished executive power while the temporary civilian government then sued for peace. So the signature on the armistice document was of Matthias Erzberger, a civilian who was later murdered for his alleged treason. Yes. So the Treaty of Versailles led to further territorial and financial losses. So the people who believed the stab in the back myth thought we lost so much from this peace treaty that was unnecessary because we were winning, and that and that it should have never been signed in the first place, and this was caused so that you could get power. So part of that, this was actually, like, a lot of research has shown that no, this was not in fact a case. There's shown evidence that they were running out of resources, they were struggling in all ways, shapes, and forms. They were losing. So this is just a popular myth that actually still goes on today. A lot of people still view this. They still view that they should not have lost World War One. So all of these combined, all the anti-Semitism, the German nationalism, the people who believe the stab in the back explanation, then later led on and grew as Hitler became a leader. Yes.
Because Hitler believed all that.
Yes, he believed all of that. And so as a leader, he was a fantastic speaker. He was a great orator. He had an amazing talent at speaking. He had vitriolic beer hall speeches that began attracting regular audiences. He was adept at using populist themes, including the use of scapegoats, who were blamed for his listeners' economic hardship. So he would say, this was not your fault. Any struggle that you have is not your own. All things that people wanted to hear. After World War One, a lot of the German people did face a lot of hardships. They were blamed for the First War. There was a lot of economic struggle, and Hitler used all of this, and he used the stab in the back mythology during his speeches to get a lot of people to agree with him. He actually had his own interest in psychology.
Oh.
Yes, and he would use personal magnetism and an understanding of crowd psychology to his advantage while engaged in public speaking. So historians have noted the hypnotic effect of his rhetoric on large audiences and all of his eyes in small groups. So he said that a person who was in one of his Algis birdies, who was there during 1936 parade where Hitler spoke, that some in the audience writhed and rolled on the ground or experienced fecal incontinence.
Wait, what?
Yes.
Sorry, what?
They were so enthralled by his speaking that they were writhing, they were rolling, and they were literally pooping themselves.
What the heck? What?
Yes.
Oh, I have so many questions.
He was just that great of a speaker. Didn't you know, Darby? Haven't you ever heard someone spoke that you just... I think, honestly, maybe that's where the phrase pooping bricks came from.
Okay, so he was just
That's not actual fact, but...
He was just so good that everyone had to roll around and poop.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because that's what you do during speeches.
What?
I honestly hope that while listening to our podcast, that's what our listeners are doing.
I'm sure all of them
Yes.
are rolling around the floor right now.
Yes, we are such great speakers that they have nothing, they can't control themselves, they can only writhe around and have fecal incontinence.
So when you get yourself together, make sure to listen, to go on and listen.
Yes.
Okay. So we're all good now, right? We're not rolling around the floor anymore?
No, but we are. Alphonse Heck, a former member of the Hitler Youth, recalled a similar experience. So if you are not experiencing fetal continence, this sounds like a drug commercial.
I'm so confused.
Symptoms of a Hitler speech might include dizziness, writhing on the floor, fetal incontinence, and other things. Consult your doctor before listening. So Alphonse Heck says, you might experience this while listening. We erupted into a frenzy of nationalistic pride that bordered on hysteria. For minutes on end, we shouted at the top of our lungs with tears streaming down our faces. From that moment on, I belonged to Adolf Hitler, body and soul.
Okay, so this is another form where he treats him like God.
Yes.
Because that's what happens when you get baptized. You belong to God, body and soul.
Oh.
You should not belong to Hitler, body and soul.
Well, apparently these people did. This was a common side effect of his speeches.
Common side effects.
Yes. So Hitler was a fantastic orator, and he said everything that the people wanted to hear. No matter who the audience was, he said what he needed to be said in order to get them to follow. So he was also very cunning and manipulative. So after the failed beer hall event, he got much better at political play. And here is that conspiracy I've been lording over you that you may or may not know of. Hitler may have also been an arsonist.
An arsonist?
Yes.
Like fire?
Yes.
Okay.
So, following a series of maneuverings and intrigues, Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany in 1933. However, he aspired to even greater power, as Hitler does. And that was achieved when Germany's parliamentary building conveniently caught fire and was severely damaged on February 27, 1933. So, they don't know what Hitler's involvement was with the Reichstag fire. A lone communist was later convicted of the crime, but he did use the event to solidify his authority. The day after the blaze, he oversaw the suspension of all civil liberties, and in the following month's election, the Nazis and their allies secured a majority in the Reichstag. On March 23, 1933, the Reichstag passed the Enabling Act, which sanctioned Hitler's dictatorship. So then in August 1934, shortly after the death of President Paul von Hindenburg, the German people voted to give Hitler complete authority, combining the offices of Chancellor and President to create the post of Führer und Reichskanzler, leader and Chancellor.
So I have a new theory.
What's that?
I think he's a witch.
Hitler's a witch, confirmed. Mad as a Hatter podcast, 2019.
That's what I was expecting you to say. So the theory is he's a witch, and then you said arson. And I was like, well, this leads into my theory as well. Yeah. He makes people roll on the floor. He makes them follow his every word, and he sets fire when there's no reason for there to be fire.
Exactly. Hitler's a witch, confirmed.
Yep.
I accept this theory full-heartedly. Or would it be warlock? I'll go with witch. So, yes. They were pretty sure that, hey, this is oddly coincidental timing. That this just happened to happen when you needed to rise to power.
Witch.
Yes. Burn the witch. No, don't do that. He sets fires.
Burn him at the stake.
So yes, that was really a combination of all these factors, really, or what historians and people believe caused Hitler to become Hitler. His father, the death of his family members, rejection, kind of just his own personality, and then like all these societal viewpoints that were happening during his life. And then I have a fun fact for you.
He's a witch?
No.
Oh.
He was, in 1939, a Swedish legislator nominated Hitler for the Nobel Peace Prize.
Wait, what?
Hitler was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. So, although he intended it as a joke, this Swedish legislator, it caused a uproar, and the nomination was quickly withdrawn.
Why?
Yes, not that Hitler would have wanted or had even been able to accept the award. Yes, so...
Wait, why wouldn't he have wanted the award? Wouldn't he have wanted it?
Let me see.
I feel like he would want it.
In 1936, German journalist Karl von Ossietzky, a vocal critic of Hitler, had been named the winner of the 1935 Peace Prize.
Good.
The gesture was seen as a censure of Nazism and an insult to Germany. As a result, Hitler barred all Germans from accepting a Nobel Prize and created the German National Prize for Art and Science as an alternative. The 3 Germans who subsequently won Nobels during the Third Reich were forced to decline their awards, although they later received their diplomas and medals.
Oh, good.
So Hitler said, "Oh, you nominated and gave the prize to one of my critics? Well, you know what? Nobody gets
More
it
rejection!
now."
He didn't win!
He didn't.
More rejection!
It wasn't that he didn't get the chance to win. It's that he said, no, if my critic's gonna get it, then nobody gets it.
Oh, so this was before he was nominated?
Yes. So before he was nominated in 1939.
So that's why
in
he couldn't have...
1935, his critic was given the Peace Prize.
So that's why he couldn't have and wouldn't have.
Yes.
Because he banned Germans from
He barred Germans from
receiving it.
So as soon as he barred people, a German legislator nominated him as a joke.
To be like, ha-ha!
Yeah, pretty much. So
Okay,
I just thought that was a
now.
funny tidbit. I was like, oh my gosh.
I was like,
Hitler
it's a joke. Now
was
I get
the
the
Peace
joke.
Prize. Yes.
Well, I understood how it could be a joke. I just was very confused.
That was from Britannica.com, 9 things you might not know about Adolf Hitler. And I did not know that about Adolf Hitler, and it was very surprising. So, yes, I thought you would find that very interesting.
I do.
So, speaking of interesting topics, now that I am done and you are done, I think we need new interesting topics.
We do need new topics.
Yes, let me go fetch.
Let's see. Maybe the next one will be how Hitler's a witch.
Oh, yes, I would like that. As always, I draw for Darby, and Darby draws for me. So, next week, Darby, you will be doing acid.
Oh, sorry, that took me a second to, I actually forgot that I put that in my bag when I was telling you about that conspiracy I needed to add.
Oh, hey. There we go.
Okay, cool. Let's see.
Do.
Paige, you will be doing, oh, I lost it. Okay. You will be doing Love Turned into Obsession.
Ooh, I'm
That's
excited.
A 70s theme going right there.
I know. Yes. Love Turned into Obsession. I could get some really good case studies on that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm excited. All right. So, as always, feel free to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Email us any hat topics that you would like to hear us discuss. And stay tuned for our next episode.
Our next trip down the rabbit hole.
Do we want to redo that one? Okay. So, as always, make sure that you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or email us to give us some fun hat topics to discuss in our following podcasts.
And make sure to tune in to our next trip down the rabbit hole.
Thank you for joining us at Mad as a Hatter podcast.